Yo, what up guys, it's your boy Legendary here, and today people, we're going to be doing another villain deck. You guys already seen ZARK, you guys already saw Aporia's deck. Forgot if I did another villain, but I did those two villains. So today I'm going to be doing another villain, the final villain of 5Ds. I'm going to be doing Zone's deck, his Timelord deck. So let's just hop right into it. His deck is overall very simple. There's no extra deck, there's none of that. It's just a simple deck. I managed to find a way to make it a full 40 card deck by adding copies of certain of his cards, so I'll get into that. But the monsters I only kept one of. So, and I'll show you which ones those are. So, for the Time Lords, we have Sephylon, the Time Lord. This is the anime effect. You guys could choose whether or not you want to use the anime effect or you want to use the TCG effect. But the anime effect is, cannot be special summoned except by the effect of Infinite Light. Once per turn, you can special summon as many Time Lord monsters as possible from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and their attack becomes 4,000. This card gains attack equal to the combined attack of all Time Lord monsters you control, except Sephylon, the ultimate Time Lord. Negate the effects of any monster that battles with this card. If this face-up card will be destroyed, you could banish one other Time Lord monster you control instead. And if this card would be destroyed by battle, you take no battle damage from that battle. Okay, so there you go. So that's Sephylon. That's his anime effect. You guys could use the TCG or anime effect, either one. Obviously, the anime effect is a lot more busted, so definitely try to use that. He'll gain a bunch of attack points. He can get up to 20,000 attack points if you get a field full of Time Lords. So once you summon this, you can special summon all the other Time Lords and then have up to 20,000 attack points. Then we got Sandaion, the Time Lord. We got Hailon, the Time Lord. We got Michion, the Time Lord. And then we got Raphion, the Time Lord. So these four Time Lords specifically, these cards are the burn cards. The one inflicts 2,000, the other one cuts your life one in half. Like, they each do some form of burn damage. So they're very heavy on burn, the Time Lords. So it is what it is. Then we have one copy of Kamion, one copy of Zaphion, and one copy of Metaion. And yeah, so these cards are the bouncers. These three Time Lords, they're specifically the bouncers of the deck. Like, they bounce your opponent's spells and traps, or they bounce all monsters on the field or all cards on the field, and then like do little burn damage and stuff. These are the big burn damage cards. Some of these do little burn damage, but all of them just, the whole gimmick of the Time Lords is they go in, they attack an opponent's monster, they take no damage, they can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. At the end of the battle phase, their effect triggers, so they either bounce everything back or they do burn damage or whatever. So they all do a different variation of that. And then we have Gabrion, the Time Lord, and then we also have Lazion. These cards also kind of bounce as well. They all five of these cards bounce. These cards burn. Some of these do little burn, but these are the big burns. And then the final one is Sadion. So this one is different. This one actually recovers your life points. If your life points are below 4,000, after it attacks you, your life points then become 4,000. So it's really cool for recovering life points and kind of stalling out. It doesn't gain life points, it just makes it so your life points instantly go back to 4,000 each time. So that's pretty cool. So those are all the Time Lord monsters. Very good, very powerful, very strong. They all have effects that they attack and then they trigger their effect, and then during the standby phase, during your standby phase, they return back to the deck. All your Time Lords return back to the deck. So it's just they stay around pretty much for 2 turns. And then they bounce back, and then you kind of keep redoing that and activate their really busted effects. But yeah, it is what it is. They all have 0 attack except for Sephylon and Sandaion. But yeah. Alright, so those were the Time Lords. So now we're going to get into the other monsters that he has. He only has 2 more monsters, but I added 3 copies of each because you kind of need the deck to be rolling, and I didn't want to add any copies of the Time Lord monsters, the originals, because each one of them is unique to me and should not have any copies of, because then it just feels wrong. So some decks you can get away with adding multiple copies of certain monsters, but each of the Time Lords is too unique to add copies of. But anyway, we have 3 copies of Time Machine Priestess, or you guys know it as Time Maiden. This is the Japanese name, Time Machine Priestess, because all of them are called Time Machine monsters in the anime. But yeah, so I'm just using this card. This is just the regular TCG effect. It's really good. Definitely use that over the anime effect. Then we have 3 copies of Time Machine Angel, or this is called Time Angel now. But this is an anime card. This was never released, so hopefully if they do make new support for Zone, they could remake this card and give it a new effect and make it actually like do more stuff with the deck somewhere. I don't know what more they could do with it, but yeah. So this card is simple. 0 attack, 0 defense, level 1 light monster fairy. When this face-up attack position card on the field is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, return all monsters on the field to the hand. So it bounces everything back, although it has to be an attack, but one of his traps actually prevents him from taking battle damage, so we'll get into that later. But so this card is pretty okay, and it bounces all monsters back, which is pretty good. So this, you know, be careful with it. Definitely don't just be reckless, but you know, you could end up taking a lot of damage. And then another monster I added that's not really his card, but I added it because it could come in handy. Guiding Light. It's a light level 1 fairy, 0 attack, 0 defense. Its effect is when it's normal summoned, you can target a level 1 light monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So basically any of these 2 monsters. So I just added it there. You don't have to add it if you don't want to. It's really up to you. I just added it because I'm like looking for light fairy support, and I'm like, alright, this looks like it could work with the deck because it could bring these 2 back, or more specifically Time Priestess back, and then you could activate its effect, attribute itself to add a Time Lord with 0 attack from the deck to the hand. So I just added that there for that reason. But yeah, so that's pretty much the monsters right there. I think that's only 17 monsters, 16 or 17 monsters, maybe 18 now because of the Guiding Light that I added there. But yeah, so small amount of monsters right there, but it's good enough. Next up, we're going to get into the traps. For the trap cards, we've got 3 copies of Empty Machine. Very powerful. They remade the effect, and it's very good now. It does more stuff. You could discard a Timelord to draw a card and stuff, and it's really good. It sets everything up. And we got 2 copies of Infinite Machine. You could add 3 copies if you want. You know, don't worry about it if you just want to like get to your pieces as fast as possible. The reason why I didn't do that is because this goes into this, so you kind of need 3 copies of this right away, so that way you could go into this faster. So it is what it is. But yeah, 2 copies of that, 3 of the 1, 3 of the 2, and then finally 1 copy of Infinite Light. You could add 3 copies if you guys want, alright? I just wanted to do it this way because I thought it looked cool. 3, 2, 1. Being that this is the last one that you need to use anyway, it makes more sense to just have 1 copy of it, while these just kind of build up to the final one, the Infinite Light. So yeah, all these effects are really good. They're very powerful. I won't really get into it, but you guys can look it up yourselves. These are all real cards now. I wasn't able to get I wasn't able to buy these cards right here because it ended up being too much money. But it is what it is. But yeah, so this deck, very powerful, very good so far. Then we got 3 copies of Empress's Crown. I'm gonna add 3 copies of all of his trap cards pretty much because he doesn't have any spells, and you know, these trap cards are actually pretty good. So this card has the effect that if you control a Time Lord monster, draw 2 cards for each synchro monster your opponent controls. When a synchro monster is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, you can activate this card from your hand. So this is really cool because this is specifically only counters synchros. This is the only trap that specifically works for synchros. So this will be dead if you're fighting a non-synchro deck. But if you're fighting a synchro deck, then you're going to get a lot of draws because you get to draw 2 cards for each synchro that your opponent controls, which is really intense. This was the Tag Force effect, which is really powerful. I had to use it because it's too good. But yeah, this is only a counter against synchro, and it could activate from the hand if your opponent's synchro summons. So that's pretty dope. So the rest of these traps are not synchro based. They're just generic. Next up, we have Empress's Staff. So Empress's Staff has a cool effect. When an opponent declares an attack, negate it and end the battle phase. Then inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent. If you control no monsters, you can activate this card from your hand. So this is a very powerful card. I added 3 obviously because you're going to need a lot of defense, because he usually just summons 1 Time Lord monster at a time, and then it usually bounces back during the standby phase, so you're left wide open. So this trap card right here and some of the ones you're going to see next are going to protect you, protect your life points and stuff from, you know, taking damage and all that stuff. So this is great because it just negates an attack and ends the battle phase, which is really good. And if you control no monsters, you could just activate it from your hand. You don't even have to set it. So very powerful card. 3 copies of that is a must. You must have that because you're going to need that. You will be left wide open during some moments, so keep that in mind. Then we got 3 copies of Foolish Decision. So this is a cool card as well. You can activate this card from your hand during your turn. Activate only if you take battle damage. You take no battle damage from that battle. So there you go. It's simple. So they attack you directly or whatever, just activate this, or they attack you in general, I believe, right? It's not just directly. If they just attack you in general, you could just activate this card but you take no damage from that battle, which is really good. So these Empress's Staff and Foolish Decision really help you kind of stall out until you get the pieces that you need to summon your Time Lords. So very important cards. Then we have the the Magician's Wisdom. If cards on the field are returned to the hand, which obviously they do because Time Lords bounce everything back usually, you inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent for each card returned. You can activate this card from your hand during your turn. So yeah, so it just does some burn damage. It gives you a plus for when your Time Lords get bounced back, or when any, I think, monster gets bounced back, right? No, if cards on the field get bounced back, so anything. So some of the Time Lords have effects where they bounce your opponent's cards too back to the deck. So as soon as they get bounced back, you activate this card from your hand and then just do a bunch of burn damage. So pretty crazy, just crazy. And a lot of the Time Lords already do a ton of burn, Next up, so that was pretty much all of Zone's cards right there. I did add a couple extra cards that I felt worked with the theme of the deck, but I only added one copy of each. If you want to add more copies, you can. So for the last trap card, I added Miraculous Descent, because if you do banish one of your Time Lord monsters, this will allow you to bring that one back. So that's pretty good. And that's pretty much it for the traps. For the spell cards, it's only 3 spells. I added the quick play spell card Celestial Transformation. It just special summons a fairy from your hand, and its attack is half, but since they usually all have 0 anyway, it won't really matter. And then it's destroyed during the end phase, which is not that big of a deal. But yeah, and it's a quick play, so it comes in handy in case if you're getting attacked directly and you don't have one of these cards to stall, especially summon one of your Time Lords, and guess what? They can't destroy you by battle, and you take no battle damage, so they can't really do anything about it, so it's kind of cool. And then finally, for some draw cards, I added the spell card Advanced Draw. Being that you have nothing but level 10 monsters in your deck, you could tribute off one of your Time Lord monsters after they attack. Main phase 2, activate Advanced Draw, tribute it off to draw 2 cards. So pretty good. That's a pretty good combo right there for that. And then finally, for the final spell card, I added Magic Planter, because since you have all of these cards, they're all of these traps here are continuous traps. If you have multiple copies of them on the field and you just want to get rid of them to draw some cards, bam, you got this Magic Planter. Like I said, you could add 2 or 3 copies of these cards if you want. It's really up to you. I like this build so far. I think it's really good. It's very powerful. I haven't tested it out yet, but I mean, its Time Lords is pretty busted. Like I said, Foolish Decision and Empress's Staff really make the deck stall out long enough for you to get the pieces that you need. Summoning the Time Lords is easy because they all have effects that if you control no monsters, you can normal summon them without tributing, so you never really have to worry about that. Time Priestess or Time Maiden is very good because it searches out your Time Lords. It's treated as 2 tributes, and I think you could banish it from the graveyard to, I think, add a Time Lord from your deck to your hand or something like that. But yeah, the Time Lords are very powerful, very strong. Honestly, it's a very annoying deck to deal with. I haven't even faced it yet, but I already know. It's just, you just read the effects and you're like, how are you even supposed to fight this deck? The only way to counteract this deck is if you have cards that specifically negate monster effects, like Mass Negate and stuff like that. That's the only way that you can do it. Or negate the trap cards, his Empty Machines and stuff like that, the Infinite Light and all that stuff. If you're able to negate them permanently, then he won't be dead because they can still special summon. They can still normal summon themselves, but yeah, just if you're able to negate monster effects, then that's perfect, because then the majority of them have 0 attack and 0 defense, so you could just run over them real easily. So just find a way to negate their effect, but not every character deck has that possibility, so it is what it is. If you're using Yuma, he could really fight back against Zone well, because he has Numeron Force, which negates all face-up card effects on the field, and then he has Victory, which negates the monster that it's battling and stuff like that. So it's pretty nuts. But yeah, Zephylon is really good if you finally get it off with Infinite Light. Special swarm the field with all your Time Lords, and he becomes 20,000 attack. That's kind of like the big ultimate play of the whole deck. If you pull it off, it's really awesome, and he's great. Your Time Lords can't be targeted. It's just a bunch of stuff, so it's really good. But yeah, that's Zone's deck, guys. That's the Time Lord deck. I really like this deck a lot. It's so cool. It's just really annoying probably to face, and it's going to be difficult writing a script in the future. I do have to find out which opponent would be best to face off against Zone, because he burns a lot and he bounces a lot, so that can get annoying and very difficult to script. So we'll see. We'll work out a duel for Zone in the future. But anyway guys, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, all of Zone's cards will be in the link in the description below if you want to download all of his anime cards. They'll all be there for you, including the anime effect of Sephylon. So no worries. If you want to build his deck in full like you see here, you want to make some adjustments, just go in the description, print out the anime cards, and do whatever you want. God bless you guys. See you guys in the next video. Gotcha!